Conquer community, what is going on? We're back here in the Conquer Athlete podcast. I'm joined by Conquer coach Lesha V. Lesha, pronounce your last name.
It's pronounced Vozobule.
Vozobule.
Vozobule. It's Czech. It's my married name. It's not my maiden name, but Voz is the best. It's the easiest.
Yeah.
So Lesha.
Yeah. Conquer coach Lesha Voz.
There
Ryan
you go.
is on a hunting excursion right now, so he is in the backwoods looking for some animals to kill and eat and cook up. So we're ready to go to end this call. So last week's podcast, and for those people listening, this podcast, along with many other fantastic podcasts, can be found on the Coach RX podcast channel. So be sure that you guys check that out. There's some amazing coaches with some great insight information, all listed on that, all podcast form. And it's just an absolute gem of a place to get information, to hear some differing but still similar opinions on training, life, coaching, mindset. So I highly recommend everybody go check that out. Last week's podcast, we had the amazing Rich Froning on the show. And Lesha, I realized that sometimes I swear a lot. Like, we put up a clip of when I almost named my third child after Rich and how he saved my life. And I dropped the F-bomb like 10 times in like 3 sentences.
Were you so excited? I mean, I was following up with Rich Froning. I've got some big shoes to fill. This feels an honor, but I'm sure you were so excited. So,
I don't know why I swear so much. I was like this. I think sometimes I get in like this F-it mode, and then I just start swearing a lot. And I'm like, whatever. But then I listen to it and I'm like, man, I sound like an idiot. It's like Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld never swears when he does a comedic performance. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. No,
He
he
never
seems
does.
like clean fun for the most part.
But he makes it a point. He said that anybody can make someone swear by throwing an F-bomb. I mean, anybody can make somebody laugh by like swearing or throwing an F-bomb or being like rude or vulgar because it catches people off guard. He goes, but if you can truly tell a story and make people laugh throughout without swearing or being crazy vulgar, he goes, then you're a true comedian. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So if you ever listen to any of his comedic performances, he'll never swear.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I can't not say an F-bomb while I'm telling a 3-sentence story. But
I mean, I love to cuss. It's also therapeutic. It hammers home the point most of the time.
Therapeutic to swear.
Yeah, it is. It's like a release. It's like I got to do, I have energy. I don't know, pizzazz.
Have you ever just yelled? Like just yelled?
Yes, yes. Like the other day in the car, I just needed to scream,
Yeah.
and I did it. I'm sure the neighbors around me and the people. I drive a Jeep with a soft top, so you can hear everything coming out of my car.
Yeah.
And I just let one out. It just felt real nice.
But you're in Philly.
I'm in Philly, so that's kind of
yeah. They're
normal.
probably like, oh, that's a normal. Someone's having a good day.
Yeah, 100% for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, no, I just belted out. You have to. I think it's like, it's you talked about like that you do a lot of martial art training and whatever. There's like a beauty in that haya, like pushing that energy out is a thing. So just even if you dropped an F-bomb, it's a push and it's a charge of energy. So yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
How about you?
I thought you were about to say that there's a beauty in physical contact.
Well, there's that too in so many ways.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think depends on where you get fulfillment out of your aggression or like putting your aggression somewhere semi-productively, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's a big problem is conflict resolution. And I don't think people understand the conflict is good, but I don't think people understand how to have good conflict and then be able to resolve conflict. And that's, a true art of communication, whether you're a coach, a husband, wife, child, student,
Sure.
no matter what it is, you have to be able to handle conflict and deal with it and have conversations around it. And it's always been interesting to me how we don't teach people about that, but then we're so quick to scold them and make points of people around conflict when we don't train people to handle conflict. It's it's interesting to me.
Unless you go to therapy. I think therapy is like, why are you acting this way? Like that's the source of therapy, in my opinion. It's like you'd have to get down to the grassroots, and it could be like what happened to you at the age of 2. And you're like, what the fuck does that have anything to do with me right now? Like, my wife threw out my favorite whatever. And it's like, oh, well, that actually has a lot to do with what happened when you were 2. So I don't know. I think conflict resolution, it's an art. I definitely
Yeah,
think it's an art, but I think it should be welcome. It does allow for growth in so many ways, and any shape and form, uh, for everything that we do. We should be able to talk about it.
we should. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So what's new with you? What do you have going on?
What's new with me? I have been going back and forth between living in Mexico City with my partner, and I'm back in Philly. I did some contract work, basically getting in front of clients in a group setting, doing some group training just to kind of fill a void. There's something really magical about being in front of a group of people, being able to talk the talk and walk the walk of what we do as coaches. And this, I think, would honestly like touch on today's topic, coaching the individual in a group setting. It just allows you to make like really quick interpersonal connections with people, whether they've got something going on outside the doors of the gym in their personal life and they're coming into the gym. You talked about, physical exertion or contact or anything like that. Like, I think that's something that like group training does allow for people to get in and not only just do something physical, but they're doing it vibing with a bunch of other people doing it physical. So that's one of the reasons why I'm back in Philadelphia, is to get in front of people a little bit more than where I was in Mexico City. I have a language barrier, which is my problem. I don't speak the Spanish as well as I should.
Hmm.
To at least coach in that city to its fullest and honor it with respect. So that's what I'm doing. That's what's up. Doing a lot of individual design, which has been a lot of fun. I think that that's also a great way to connect with people on a different level. Honestly, in a deeper level, you're
Hmm.
depending on how long they have to train, you're in their head for at least 15 hours a week, making decisions around their goals on a linear path. So yeah, that's what's up. That's what I'm doing right now.
I love
Studying,
it.
yeah, researching, connecting with folks, talking
Hmm.
about CrossFit, talking about other forms of fitness, talking about how to manage fitness and your life, jobs, the whole bit.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
you said you got back into coaching to fill a void. What is that void for you?
That void for me is connection, human connection. I think that I'm pretty heady when it comes down to just the way I live my life. I find deep meaning in pretty much everything. I think that there is a human connection and a universe connection. And I think that people meet each other for purpose and reason. The answers might not always be right there in front of you. You're not going to get them right away, but it happens. It'll come, or it will be remembered in another situation down the road. So filling the void for me, I wasn't having the same type of human connection. And I think going back to the language thing, not being able to speak the language and having to connect is really tough. I mean, I can, wave and say, hola, ¿cómo estás? And give a very generic response, but it's kind of the same when you come into the States, it's like, hey, how are you? I'm good. How are you? How are you? Like, and people like they do that. I don't know if you've ever had that experience. It's so robotic that
Hmm.
people, they're answering their own question. So I don't know. I think filling that void is like having these kind of interpersonal connections and
Mm.
teaching people how to be confident in the gym space. I think is also super important, or just in general. Fitness to me is making people feel worthy, making people feel self-sufficient, strong, confident. So I get to do that in like a big blanket. So filling that void is like blanket statementing someone with little pearls of wisdom, and they can either take it or leave it, or they missed it because they're talking to their friend about so and so at work. So I don't know. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to stir
Yeah.
the pot. I love to like also just like do one of these and see what happens, and people end up making friendships out of it. I ran an
Hmm.
affiliate for about 12 years, and then before that I was at another affiliate for 2 prior to that, and now I'm just kind of in this transit. But I've watched a lot of people make connections, and I think I missed being a connector in the universe, especially around fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Puff Daddy's a connector.
I love that. I mean, you're a connector too, right? Are you close to Puff Daddy? Talk to, like, also, like, explain to me. I'm really bad with pop culture.
Oh, man. So
Talk
explain to
to
you the
me.
Puff Daddy situation?
Well, explain to me how Puff Daddy's a connector. I'm out of the loop.
Oh, now that's a whole other podcast. I feel like we'll go down a deep rabbit hole away from the essence of group training inside of a class and how to coach the person and not the workout. For me as an affiliate owner, looking for coaches, one of the most challenging things for someone to do is to be that voice, that presence in front of people. because people have a challenging time speaking in front of other people. And if you have a challenging time speaking in front of other people, then you're going to have a challenging time being able to conduct the class, right? And running a class is like being a conductor because you have so many different components transpiring at once within inside the class. From you might have a 30-year-old, you might have a 55-year-old, you might have someone feeling great, ready to crush it. You may have somebody with a knee problem or someone that can't quite hinge that well. You might have somebody that is super talkative and other people that are super quiet, people that want to just work out, people that want to socialize, people that have been there for 3 days on, 2 days off. People have been there 1 day a week for the past 5 weeks, right? There's such a variance of things transpiring within inside of class. But on top of that, what I think is one of the more challenging components of running group training is running group training, meaning how do you run a class efficiently from a macro to a micro perspective, getting touches onto everybody the right way, utilizing names, giving appropriate feedback, being able to scan the perimeter, go to the inside to make a correction, come back out, being able to see somebody across the room. For me, something that was so beneficial. My first college that I went to, Springfield College, I actually had to take a class on classroom management. I went there I was going through the physical education department there, and we had to take a class on how to run a class of like 15 to 20 people. Kids, and you got graded on everything from missing things that could cause injury or harm, or pairing the wrong kids up together, putting people who don't communicate well next to each other, not being able to manage disturbances, having bad flow. And that was a whole semester for me of being in the trenches, which when I took it, I was like, oh, this is ridiculous. But it actually set me up perfectly for where I end up going with being a coach. And I'm able to naturally always go back to that, whether I'm coaching professionals in a gym, I'm coaching athletes at a college or a high school or youth setting, or I'm just trying to present in front of a bunch of people. Being that conductor in the flow of the rhythm of the class and the organization structure and how it moves has been invaluable to me. And I think that that's an area that gets lost a lot with inside coaches who run group training, whether it's at CrossFits or F45s or Orange Theories, whatever it might be, is there's not enough time in circumstances being put into how to properly run a group training session where people feel touched, they feel the experience, right? When I say touched, I mean everyone learns and is going to react differently, whether it's auditory, kinesthetic, or hearing, showing, and seeing, right? So going through those three methods with the people. And when you're able to do that and understand how people connect and learn, you can then individualize group training really well, where people have an experience, they feel like they're being touched and they're learning and developing, and you're working with them, but they're still in a group of 5, 10, 15, and obviously once you get over, in my opinion, 12 to 15, it get really challenging to do that.
For sure.
So for you, being an affiliate owner, working in a lot of different settings, what has been one of the most valuable ways that you attack or handle group training to present that individualization component to the people in your class?
That's a really great question. So to kind of go back just a little tiny bit, I am academically not the best. I almost failed high school. I was always sat in the back of the class. I turned beet red if you ever called on me to stand up in front of the class or read something. But when I got put in a situation with coaching, or the aspect of coaching, I came alive. And there's something really powerful about being in front of people, or at least having some of that kind of control, but also a level of care. So I think there's empathy. I think that you can learn some forms of empathy with people. I think that to manage a class is an art form. I think people who work at the restaurant industry actually could make really great coaches, just because they know how to work 10 tables at a time. And if you think about what, right, or the ones you want to tip well, right?
Yeah.
So you've got a classroom full of people. To me, that's like you've got a section full of people at your tables. So one of my approaches is always, it's what happens in the lobby and what happens after class that I think is also really important. It also comes down to like how you program or structure your workouts in the gym. Also, the way I would manage a class, my phone is off. It is over here. I have nothing to do with my phone. It has to do with music. That's it. Or checking people in. So when I'm in the lobby, I'm asking people, hey, how are you doing? I haven't seen you in a minute. It's always just making little touch points. And if I've never met you before, hey, how long have you been here? How long have you been coming to this gym? Or like I'm new to a couple of gyms in the area, so I'm asking these people all these questions. So just question asking, actually be like genuinely curious about the people. And then warm ups, whiteboard briefing is a great time to pose questions in the, I would say, what's the word that I'm looking for? In the like the literal and the figurative form,
Hmm.
and let them sit with that. Be active during warm ups. I'm always super active as a coach during warm ups. I walk the room. As people are warming up, I'll stop where I'm at, demo the movement, and then stand up and then go back into the warm up and start asking, like, so, Jason, I asked, we're doing a ton of volume and pull ups today. And I asked the class, where do you want to go with your pull ups? So that question is already rooted in their mind. And as I'm going around and I ask them, hey, where do you want to go with your pull ups? They've had time now to think about it. So then I've just made a connection. I've made a connection. And then if I keep doing that around the room, then I can start collecting people with the same premise or the same idea or same thought or same skill level. And then if it comes to breakout, we're going to warm up our pull ups. All right, Tom, Bob, Jeff, you three are still on ring rows. Let's get y'all together and we're going to talk about progressing these ring rows. Pam, Susan, Tina, y'all are on the green band. Let's get you over here. It's just like, and I'm like, do y'all know each other? Say hello, make that introduction. And then I get to learn another thing because they start talking. So it's just like spirals or radiates. And that's how I get into interpersonal connecting with people in a group setting. I just kind of like work the room. I love to ask questions. People love to talk about themselves. It gives them ownership to their situations, to their goals. They are coming to the class to be directed and challenged, but they also want some level of autonomy. And I love when people learn how to do things. It's like if I coach you for 2 years, I hope that you take the things that I taught you and you can carry on by yourself. I'm teach a person to fish kind of mentality. I love doing that. And that also helps me learn and helps me watch them grow as athletes and just as people.
Yeah, that's great. You said
Yeah,
a couple things that made me think about a few things. One was the 5-star experience. So that's something that it seems like you do as well. And it's something that I talk to our coaches about all the time. And to me, the 5-star experience, I didn't create this. This was created by, I think, the Ritz-Carlton. And it got presented to me by Marcus Guerzi, a best hour of their day. He presented it to me like 6 years ago. But it's red carpet experience, smile, best hour of their day, being an ambassador to the brand, and being a good host. So I think running a good group training session and individualizing from the beginning starts with that, meaning when people walk into a facility, they want to be welcomed, right? They want you to say their name. They want to say, hi, what's going on? And to me, like that grabs the person right away. It does for me. If I walk into Starbucks or anywhere I go and someone says, welcome to Starbucks or whatever it is, and they know your name, like right away, you're like, damn, I'm getting the red carpet experience, And that kind of puts them in a good place. You always want to smile. I used to have a coach that never smiled. I'm like, bro, like you have to smile. Like you can be the best
yeah,
coach in the world, but if no one is attracted to you from a connection standpoint, like they're not going to want to take your class. You want to make it the best hour of their day. And I talk to a lot of coaches about this because to me, it's like if people are late to the class, like I don't care. Like we have no idea what's going on with their lives from
exactly. Yeah.
work, family, traffic, travel. Like they might have not wanted to come. They dragged themselves there. Like just the fact that they're there, now let's make it a great time that they're there. And
Yeah.
that's more important than anything else. Being an ambassador to the brand, this goes a long way that I talk to a lot of young coaches about. If you work for me, then you're working for my brand. And no matter where you go, whether you're at a bar on a Saturday night or you're inside the gym, you're an ambassador to my brand. And if you're acting inappropriately or doing things you shouldn't, that's going to come back to me. And I think that's one thing that people have to understand, especially nowadays. And it's something I talk to my kids about a lot is the impact of social media, pictures, text messages, threads, DMs, all these things, they don't go away. And if you're acting appropriately and it can negatively affect the brand, then the person that owns the brand is going to get rid of you no matter where you are and what you're doing. And that's something that people have to keep in mind. And the last part is what you just described, which is being a good host.
Mm-hmm.
Introduce people to people. Bring someone over to this group. Someone's new. This person's been here for 12 years and they love to talk. Introduce them. Make them pair up with that person. And that right there is some ways to individualize someone's experience inside of a group training session. Like I'm hypersensitive to customer service no matter where I go. And it's like,
100%. Yeah.
if I'm somewhere and like if I'm doing jujitsu and a coach is on their phone or the class is boring, like I won't go back. I'll find another place to go no matter how good the instructor is. And like that's so important to me. And you touched on it a lot. So we went through being a good host, ambassadors, best hour, smiling, red carpet, all ways to individualize group training. So Lesha, when you're inside and you're running a group training class, what are some things that you do what does coaching the person, not the workout, mean to you?
That means paying that virtual perspicuity. You need to have eyes on the class the whole time. That's why warm-ups are so important. You actually get a sense of how they're moving, doing the actual thing, that whatever it is that we're doing for the day. Let's say it's thrusters. Everybody's got an empty barbell. They're doing their thrusters, and you see Paul's front rack is not great. So when it comes down, let's say it's like an EMOM, we're building to a heavy double thruster or whatnot, there is a break within that. And in that break is you go over and you say, hey, I notice your front rack is not really doing so great. Why don't we do a little, just some tricep or lat openers while you're working, or while you're taking your time out on your EMOM. So I go over and I've individually coached him on his mobility. I've noticed him, I've paid attention to him, and I always give a compliment on top of that. I'm giving away all my secrets here, Jay. Like, what the hell?
That's what we do.
Yeah, but so giving a compliment, it's like, hey, your squat depth is awesome. Your front rack looks a little uncomfortable. Let's do this. And then I'll see, Paula, we're on a cycle with heavy thrusters, and I paid attention. I remembered, she hit 135, and we're trying to peak a little bit today. And I'll go over and I'll be like, hey, I saw you. I saw you hit 135 last week so easy. 140. Let's see you do 140 today. First of all, they're blown away that I can remember what they hit a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And then I've pushed them to do a little bit extra. So it really does. If there's an art to paying attention, and there is an art to memorizing what's happening, or not even memorizing, but just caring enough. And if you're really invested in what you're coaching, you can do just that. So those are some of my tricks. I think in group settings, it's depending on the structure. Some people do the strength and a Metcon, or just a Metcon and take a long time to warm up, or some day is just a strength day. Just finding where you can actually insert yourself individually with each person. And it, like you said, it gets tough when you start getting more than like 12 people in a group setting. But if that's the case, let's say it's like an every 2 minutes, pair people up. Then you can partner people up. And then you basically, instead of having 16 people, now you have 8 pods to watch, which is it's much more manageable. I think that would make things a little bit easier. What else came last? Like even workouts. If somebody's in a workout and if they look like they're sending it and it's really bad, I'll come right up into them and I'll be like, stop, just 1 second. You're going to throw your back out doing that swing. Take a second. Here's what I'm looking for. And do a couple little corrections. It gives them a 20-second break to breathe. And then it gives me an opportunity to coach them. If it's a slower movement, I can coach them right there on the spot. But it's all about being super active. I think you just have to be willing to touch every single person. And if I miss somebody in the class, I make sure to approach them when class is over and either give them that compliment or give them something that I noticed, but I couldn't get to them because, Jeff over here is falling apart. He needs more, it's like sometimes it's triage too. So yeah, that's how I insert myself or make the individual experience. Is you really have to approach the individual. You can say a couple blanket statements. I think there's always that hierarchy within class, which is like, here's the whiteboard, here's the discussion, here are the points of performance. If you are struggling with double unders, here's a coaching tip on the double unders. Here's what I want you to do if you're really good at double unders. And then, you've given them layers, and then you go into individual, and people will listen, especially if you're starting to give layers and you've called attention to maybe that type of athlete, and then you can see where they're at, and make your adjustments if you need to. Words of encouragement. If it's an old workout, let's say it's a benchmark workout, I always, depending on how your gym runs the system, I'll go back and I would research, let's say it's somebody's Fran time. We did Fran, we were on a Fran cycle, and let's say Fran was done 2 months ago. I'll go back and I'll see how many people did it. And if some serious numbers stick out, or I've seen Joanne has been improving every time she's been showing up these last 2 months and really taking her training seriously. And let's say her time was 15:35. We let her finish at a 15-minute time cap. I'll go up to Joanne and be like, you finished that 15:35 2 months ago. Let's see where you're at this week. I really want to see you try 12. I know you can do it. Like just little bits like that. So you really have to care, I think, to make the individual stuff happen. But those are my tricks.
Yeah, that's great. I think too, just to piggyback on that, I think sometimes coaches get too wrapped up in having to coach the workout, having to only coach like what the whiteboard says. And I get it from a power dynamic. If you have someone programming for your facility or the owner's programming and you're coming in to coach it, you want to do your best to run that workout, run the class the way that the gym wants it to be done. But it's very important in a group setting for coaches to, like you said, drive that connection with athletes and being able to have an understanding of what things need to be changed and adjusted. I think a lot of that can occur, like you had mentioned earlier, with inside we'll call it the pre-go discussion. Something I'll do with classes is as we're warming up, I'll have conversations with people. I'll ask people some simple questions, whether it's about the weekend, how they're feeling, their sleep, and if I see, I'll bring people into a huddle and ask that question, hey, how are we all doing today, right? And what I try to do is I look for people who might put their head down or might look away or might kind of like, make a noise that leads you to assume that something's a little bit off, right? And once I can pick up on that, then from there, I'll try to have a conversation with them, whether it's in a warm up or as people kind of gather their equipment. Because what I want to do from an individualized perspective within inside of a group training setting is try to get as best an idea I can with someone's readiness, right? Someone's ready state. Are
Sure.
they coming in being fatigued, tired, poor sleep, partying all weekend, yard work all weekend, stressed out, spousal issues, job issues, or they come in, they're like rearing to go? And do I need to adjust up and down that ladder for them in order to give them the right experience? Not the experience that the whiteboard says, but what's that right experience for them for this day? Going back to what we talked about, the 5-star experience of having it be the best hour of their day, right? Because that might be for them just to sit on a bike for 40 minutes. It might be, do some sleds, some farmer's carries, some planks, ride the bike, do that for 20, 30 minutes. It might be for someone just to try to hit a new PR because they're feeling great. It might be that someone needs to drop the intensity but still do exactly what everyone else is doing. Maybe bring down the volume a little bit. Maybe change their movements up completely, but still stay on a similar pattern based on their structural readiness of being able to handle movements in the exercise selection that's programmed. And when coaches can tap into those individualized aspects of training within inside of a group setting, to me, that's when they're really able to be that ultra conductor of running a class, but still being able to individualize things for the people inside the class,
100%. Yeah, for sure. And it's, group class, we need each other. We need people. People need people. It just makes it that much more powerful of a thing. And the gym is like, I don't know where your religion is at, but it's very spiritual.
Mm.
It allows you to connect with yourself and your abilities as a person on this earth to move. And it pays big time to everything else that you do. I always talked about the deadlift, metaphorically speaking, when I would coach like onboarding programs of some people that have never deadlifted before, and they're just like, "What is this?" And I was like, "This is a metaphor for life. It's the heaviest lift you'll probably ever do in the gym. It's equivalent to telling your boss that they're wrong or that you need a raise or a confrontation or conflict." And it's how we rise through adversity and through challenges that make us be able to handle other things. And I don't know, people eat it up. I eat it up. I believe in it. That's it.
Yeah, that's great. If I was to say one thing to gym owners or coaches listening in regards to how to individualize group training, my one word would be adaptable. I think coaches and gym owners need to always come into it to be adaptable and to not let the ego get in the way and to not feel like something has to be forced, because fitness shouldn't be forced. And what we have to always keep in mind is our training, whether it's one-on-one session, whether it's program design, whether it's group training, whether you're at a CrossFit gym, an F45 gym, or Fitness Edge, no matter what it is, everything you're doing is being done to benefit your life. It's not being done to draw from your life, unless you're going from an elite level athlete perspective. That's a different discussion, right? But if we're going here for longevity, we're here for health, we're here to feel better, look better, move better, then our training needs to enhance that. It needs to enhance our quality of life. But part of that also comes down to the coaches and the gym owners then being able to become adaptable with what they want the overall avatar, the average person to do per that individual to be successful. Because whether you're running a gym program or a template program, that's based around an average, right? If you're doing a template, then you're basing around like one or two people who's your average person of what you want that template to be built for. And then everybody else following it is assuming that that law of averages is going to work for them. And for some it does, for some it doesn't. And the same thing in a gym setting. If I'm programming for my gym, I have a basic avatar of a male and female that I'm programming for between like the stress levels, lifestyle, age, exercise selection, movement capacity, and readiness state. And I build my programming around that. But that's still an average program. I'm taking the law of averages and I'm writing a program for the average. People aren't average. And I think we're coaches and everyone needs to understand is no matter how good of a programmer you are, or you think you are, or how good of a program you're getting from somebody else, it's still based around the average of what that precedence is setting. And the more adaptable you are with people every single day inside of a group setting, then the more individualized and more effective that program can become, and it can become above average because now you're adapting it to that person what they need to become successful.
100%.
Anything you want to add in closing?
I think another part of coaching is be welcoming. Be welcoming, be kind, be humble. Gyms in general are such an intimidating space for a lot of people. And some of the people that need gyms maybe the most are also the most intimidated by the setting. So be open, be kind, be humble, be welcoming.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Great way to end. Everybody listening, I hope you guys found some value in this. If you are a gym owner or coach, and you want to dive deeper into group training, how to individualize group training, have some questions with us, feel free to drop us an email at help@conquerathlete.com. Coaches and gym owners out there, don't forget we have our coaching mentorship. The second cohort is going to open up July 2nd. We only taking the first 10. If you want to get in it, you can get on the wait list by emailing help@conquerathlete.com. People on the wait list have the first right of refusal. And then if it sells out in the wait list, then it sells out. And everyone's going to have to wait for the third one to come along. Athletes out there, if you're looking to get something more individualized, to have a set plan to help you overcome your struggles, plateaus, or becoming stagnant, then check out our Conquer Athlete Individual Design Program, where you can work with amazing coaches like Coach Lesha and get on a good track to become the best coach the best athlete that you can possibly become. If you liked our podcast, give it a like, give it a share, follow, do all those things with it. And don't forget to check out the podcast channel at Coach RX. Thank you all for listening.